Hiya, and welcome back to Password. The game that teaches us that the disappointed Durg is disappointed. He is so disappointed in Dean. Oh god, don't... let's just hop right in. I know, it's so amazing, just trauma. Dean took me by the hand and led me outside. Closing the door behind us, he took me by the hand to the stairs at the end of the deck and sat down, bringing me with him. Hiya. This is nice. I looked across to Dean, who was looking up at the sky, dusk slowly shifting into night as more stars came into view. But his smile slowly faded, so that instead he just looked like he was thinking hard about something. Dean? What's up? Nothing, I think. You were just zoning out a little? Ah, right. He played with his hands briefly, looking away. Did you have a good time tonight? What? Of course I did. The dinner was great, and I have this too. Pulled out the small figurine that he'd given me from my pocket, holding it at eye level. What wasn't there to like? Right. Good. But his tone hinted that things weren't good and he was just being polite. What's wrong? I'm going to sound like a jerk for this. Oh. I had a great time, honest. But something just didn't spark. I assumed it would like last time, but nothing. I blinked, unsure of what to make of it. Immediately, I started to wonder if I did something wrong or said something to upset him, but he continued. I mean, do I think you're cute? Yes. Do I like you a lot? Absolutely. He looked at me, looking ashamed. I think I like you too much for the wrong reasons. I think I love you, but not romantically. Not anymore, anyway. Oof. I frowned, not out of anger, but confusion. The feeling in my chest made me feel like I was hurting, but I couldn't place how or why specifically. I'm so sorry, Dave. This sucks. Started to chuckle, feeling my eyes starting to water. I couldn't tell if they were tired from being tired or from being genuinely upset, but I was laughing all the same. This really sucks, Dean. I know that I'm screwing this up. I made that mistake once already with Rami and don't want to go and do wrong by someone else I care about. What about my feelings? Why don't I get a say? Can't we try and make it work anyway? He seemed a little stunned at my question, looking me over trying to figure something out. What if I love you? What then? I'm sorry, but As he fumbled over his words, I felt angry, scared, and betrayed. Not from just Dean, but from myself, and I think that was making it worse. Close your eyes, Dave. The single comment shook me out of my building stress, and I looked at him confused. Huh? Why? Just do it. Please. I was reluctant, but I did it anyway. Good. Okay, now take a deep breath, and I want you to think about something. What? Now, really think about this. When you close your eyes and think about the person you like the most, who is it? It's, No, don't need to tell me. I felt Dean put his hand on my face, and I trembled as I felt him get closer. His muzzle slowly pressed against mine, soft and warm at first, only getting warmer as I opened my mouth. But something felt strange, different maybe. Despite what he just told me, despite that he was kissing me right now, I could have sworn I was kissing someone else. He pulled away slowly, resting his hands in his lap. Well, what? You tell me. You didn't kiss me back for someone who was keen on, you know. Oh, can we have a do-over? If you really want to, but I don't think that's a good idea. I slumped, looking down at the spot between my feet. Did I do something wrong? Of course you didn't. Things just didn't click, that's all. But after so long of us, doing this is how it ends? I wouldn't say that it ends. We're still friends, aren't we? I don't know. Well, whatever you decide, we can deal with it when you're sure. Scratching my neck, I wasn't sure what to say or do. Or at this point, what to even feel. The kiss felt nice, but not exactly right. Something was missing. Maybe that's exactly what Dean meant when there wasn't a spark, but what did it all mean? There was only one person now that I knew might know, and I didn't know if it would be appropriate to leave now to ask. Are you doing okay? I'm just not sure is all. This hasn't happened before. It's new. Don't rush yourself. Just take it one step at a time. I think I want to talk to Orlando, ask what he thinks. Probably not a bad idea. Did you want me to come with, or would you like to talk to him alone? Alone, I think. What are you going to do? Probably go find Sale. Let him know how it went, just so there's less people to fill in later. Yeah, okay. Dean stood up, offering out a hand, but I got up without taking it. He shifted back, giving me some space before flashing me a quick smile. Well, again, thanks again for the night, and sorry it didn't work out, Dave. Yeah, me too. Thanks, Dean. Did you want a hug? No, I'm good. I'll see you around. Dean looked me over before giving me a single nod. Then he was gone, wandering inside and closing the door quietly behind him. Turning away from the door, I looked out to the forest, then up at the evening sky, whining to no one in particular. A few minutes passed before I wandered back inside, heading through the dining room to the last place I saw Orlando. There wasn't any indication things had changed from when Dean and I got up from the table. I considered for a moment if he'd moved on. Oh, poor baby. Oh, poor baby. Ah, my heart. My fucking heart. The Dirk is sad. No! When I wandered into the kitchen, Orlando was there crying, hand shaking as he struggled to shovel the ice cream in front of him into his mouth. Orlando? He flinched but said nothing, trembling as I came to stand next to him, unsure. The moment he couldn't play off he hadn't heard me, he quickly got up, wiping his eyes and flashing me a quick smile. Dave? What are you doing here? Before that, are you okay? Me? Yeah, I'm fine. What happened with Dean? I thought you'd be, about that, I chuckled, the smile fading from my face soon after. It didn't spark, or that's what he said anyway. He was meant to feel something, but didn't, and that was it, really. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? What about you? You're the one crying. I'm not. I gave him a look, and he broke down again, sobbing. It's not fair. It's just not fair, Dave. What's not fair? Why did I agree to help him take you on a date? Why did I try so hard to put you two together when all along... He trailed off, unable to finish between his hiccups. When all along you, I didn't want to put words in his mouth, but I got his meaning pretty loud and clear. All this fussing about what's going to happen after this vacation was helping me put things down, but now it just sucks. It does, yeah. Dave, I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize for, Orlando. I mean it. He took one of my hands in his and looked me in the eye, as best as he could anyway while wiping away tears. I'm sorry that I didn't tell you sooner. We're clear that I love you this much. Yeah, well... I gestured with my free hand how he'd done earlier when we were standing in the same room. Gay problems, right? God, that was so dumb. It sums it up nicely enough, though. It's very much a gay problem, huh? Yeah, gay problems. He laughed, shaking his head. Sorry. Don't be sorry, Orlando. I have gay problems of my own. Can I help with them at all? Orlando, you are my gay problem. I love you too. What? I love you too, Orlando. But I don't know, like, what's meant to happen next, but this feels right. This feels different. Better than what was between me and Dean. Just so we're clear. I love you more than a friend does. I look at you and my heart gets all warm and fuzzy and like... I know. Okay, good. I reached over and tried to wipe away what tears were left on his cheek, and he just laughed. I'll be okay, but, what did you want to happen now? I honestly don't know. Is there anything you wanted to do? Can I kiss you? Properly, I mean. Yeah, I think I'd like that. He leaned in carefully and worked my mouth open with his tongue. He was gentle, warm, and held me tight as if he was afraid I'd suddenly leave. Pulling back for just a second to make sure I was still there, he pulled me in for a second kiss, and I tried my best to mimic what he was doing to me. I felt my experience was showing, but let him take the lead. We broke away slowly, his nose resting on mine, and I could feel the rumbling through his body as he just held me close. But that wasn't to say that he didn't sneak one last peck in. He pulled away again, giggling to himself and lightly bouncing on his feet. I'm so happy right now. Yeah? You have no idea. Oh, hiya. He put his hands on my sides and lifted me up a little before setting me back down. I have you. I can finally call you mine. Yeah. Once again, he lifted me up and hugged me tight against his front, keeping my feet barely off the floor. Orlando? Put me down? It was accompanied with laughter, and he laughed alongside me before kissing me quickly again on the muzzle. Come on, you, let's go upstairs. What's upstairs? What about the dishes? Fuck the dishes. How flatly he'd spoken caught me off guard, and I felt his hand take mine again. Fuck the dishes, I guess. Felt like we were doing something forbidden, scurrying off to Orlando's room, much like we'd just gotten back home after picking up a new game. He was giddy, his tail barely clearing the door before snapping it shut once we were both inside. Then off came his shirt, and I once more felt his hands on my body. Let me make sure there's nothing NSFW. Because if I'm not mistaken, because I like to go through game files. There's one for Dean's route. Okay, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you. God, there's so many things that I wanted to do and try, and now... His smile quickly faded as he noticed his hands ready to grab me again. Am I going too fast? A little. Sorry, I guess I'm just excited. Not nervous. Nervous was leading up to this point. But I'm guessing this is maybe a bit much. Honestly, I don't know. You've done all this stuff before. I haven't, and it's exciting? Should we stop? Well, I took my shirt off and threw it to the floor, grinning with my hands on my hips. Maybe we can try a few things. Orlando had me quickly in his arms again, and soon enough we'd made our way over to the bed. He doted on me and handled me with such care as if I was a precious gem or that I'd break at any moment. Still, above all else, I felt loved, and with his hand in mine we spent an intimate time together. Well, I mean, Orlando's goal, he did reach his goal. He reached his goal. Out of breath, we lay side by side on the bed. The dumb smile on Orlando's face was only rivaled by mine and didn't fade for a moment. That was amazing. Yeah, that was great. He rolled over to face me, cupping my cheek and kissing me again, sweetly. You're probably going to want to have another shower before bed. I'm just sorry that I'm making you have a second one. It's worth it, I promise. You know, it does make me wonder if, you know... What? If we should tell Dean where things ended up? Oh, right. I don't know. Maybe? For what it's worth, I think it's the right thing to do. So you clean up so you can go fill him in and I'll clean up when you're done. What about after? Well, I see no reason why this can't be our room now, right? After I'd cleaned up, I'd wandered downstairs to give Orlando the shower to clean himself up. Apparently, while the option to shower together was there, he figured that that could be something to do another night. And there was no need to do everything all in one go. That's fair, I suppose. Followed Sal's voice out to the backyard, and the two of them looked up as they noticed the door move. Ah, Dave, everything alright? Yeah. Things are good. I guess. Did you need us for something? No, just wanted to check how Dean was doing. Plus I have news, I guess. I've just been talking to Sal about it. So things are going alright. How are you holding up, Dave? Good, I think. That's good. Where does this leave the two of you in general, however? I think Dean and I are good. Maybe. I'd say so. We'll be tender for a few days on both sides, I imagine, but I think we'll be alright. That's actually another thing. I spoke to Orlando and, did he finally tell you he loves you? I'm sorry, what? He did. Yeah. Then good. I'm glad things worked out, or that you two are giving it a go, maybe. We haven't had that talk yet, but soon, probably. And I'm glad. I think. Just make sure you two talk. Orlando needs it about as much as you do, I think. We will, I mean. Heading back upstairs to do that now? Yeah, I think so. Dean and I will stay here then, and see you in the morning, perhaps? I'm not going to go avoiding Dave, Sal. I know, but if Dave wants to sleep in and get up after lunch, there's nothing wrong with that. I chuckled, backing up to the door, slowly getting the impression the conversation was basically over. Guess we'll see in the morning, huh? Good night! Ah! By the time I got back to the bedroom, Orlando wasn't there. Or at least that's what I assumed at first before hearing the shower going. I sat down in the bed and waited, ears perking up when I heard the water shut off. You're back! And you put on underwear. Well, I'd call it a habit, with it only partly true. It was mostly in case I had to go looking for you. You joined me on the bed and put an arm around my shoulder. But you're back! How did it go? Fine enough. Sal was talking to him and he's, well, asked if you'd finally confessed your feelings. He did he? Last time I tell him anything. Still, they were happy for us. Or, did they say something? It's not that more what happens between us now. Are we dating? Boyfriends? How's that going to work out come the end of the month? Orlando sighed, slumping. I don't know. I really don't. Part of me wants to just not worry about it. We could probably talk things through, huh? We could save it for another time if you don't want to do it now. No, we should talk about it now, just so we're on the same page. Alright. Where do we start? I would like to consider us boyfriends, actively in a relationship now. We've been friends for years, so we know each other pretty well. Not perfectly, but we can figure stuff out as we go along, right? I guess that works, but what about the complicated stuff, like sex or whatever? What do you mean sex is complicated? I mean, like, are there rules outside of what we just did? I have basically nothing as far as experience, and you have a lot more. Does that bother you? If I'm being honest, maybe a little. I don't want you to get bored of me if I can't keep up, or if I can't, perform. You're a dork. Valid concerns, but you're a dork. Careful! Start sounding like Tyson if you keep that up. Oh, what I mean is, like, you're overthinking. All things considered, I see it as a bit of fun, but we can set boundaries for sure. What sort of boundaries? You know, we want to try something we could talk about at first and see if we're both comfortable with, including maybe involving someone else potentially. Wait, you'd want to with other people? Not if you're uncomfortable with it. It'd functionally be the same as using any number of toys anyway. For what it's worth, I'm very much maybe just wanting to stick to one person. You, I mean. Don't worry, I got that loud and clear. And then, after the month is up, that's where things get complicated for sure, yeah. Any ideas come to mind immediately? Can't say any do? Well, that's a lie, but none of them are good. How bad are we talking? We could run away, just the two of us, somewhere else where no one knows about. But that involves leaving everyone behind. Mom, Tyson, our friends. That's a bit extreme. Anything to get away from my father, though. Or are they going to try roping me into the family business and you along with it, or something else? I felt his hand flex on my shoulder and watched as his jaw clenched. He was worried, and I knew where his mind was at. What if we asked the others for suggestions? Everyone knows what the deal is with your family now, so maybe they could have an idea of what to do? Yeah, I think it's worth asking. Maybe not right now, but sometime soon, yeah? He yawned, standing from the bed looking me over. I still don't believe it, that all of this has just turned out the way it has. I'm really glad. It feels strange, but in a good way, I think. Is it bad that I don't want to go do the dishes after dinner? Completely understandable, though. How about we do them together? Orlando was already getting dressed the moment I opened my mouth, and he shook his head. I made the mess, so I'll clean it up. It'd be unfair for Benson to be cleaning up after that mess even as a butler. And I'll come give you some help. Better idea. You keep the bed warm for me so I have something nice to return to. That shouldn't be too long, but if you fall asleep, don't worry yourself over it. I'm not even that tired. You say that now, but trust me, you might find yourself passing out after such an eventful night. He came back over and pecked me quickly on the cheek before scurrying off to the door. Get comfortable. I won't be long. And so he left. I stripped down and jumped in bed, breathing out and getting comfortable. It felt surreal how fast things had gone, but now after so long it was just there. At first it was a date with Dean, then finding out it didn't work, then being with Orlando. My head felt funny with it all, but it was a nice feeling all the same. Maybe it just needed to sink in. Maybe I just needed to talk to Orlando about it more, with so much unknown about our future. I caught myself yawning and sinking into one of the pillows, eyes on the door awaiting Orlando's return, but soon enough I found myself drifting off to sleep, expecting myself to wake back up the moment he got back. What I didn't expect, though, was to wake to the sound of the resounding howl that echoed through the house. I sat up suddenly, wondering if I just imagined it. My heart was beating rapidly in my chest, and I breathed out, shaking my head. Hey? Reached over to the side and found nothing but bed. The place where I'd expected to find Orlando still bare. That part of the mattress cold. Given the time, I assumed he'd have been in bed by now and wondered where he had gotten to. But that's when the howl echoed through the house again, and with it my blood ran cold. I had a bad feeling, quickly threw some pants on and sped out of the door. When I got downstairs, I was immediately greeted to two things I didn't expect. Huh. Roswell? Thanatos? What's going on?
You missed it, Junior. I wasn't kidding when I said there was a password and you missed it. You heard the howl, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm down here. Did it wake you up as well?
No, I was awake already, but, there's only one of us that'd be howling, right?
My heart sank and I breathed out his name as my feet started speeding me towards the back door. Tyson? It was dark. Even the night sky had some amount of cloud cover to veil the moon from lighting up the backyard. A hand quickly grabbed my wrist, stopping me from running off the moment after.
Where are you going?
Tyson, right? It's got to be Tyson.
But what's got you so panicked? What do you think has happened?
What's going on? Yes, someone able to explain why Tyson's howling? See, it's Tyson. If Hoss knows it's Ty, why wouldn't I know?
And what do you think you're going to do? Go running off into the forest again? You know what happened last time.
He has a point, as blunt as he's making it.
Face it, Junior. He's already a goner.
You're lying. Who's gone? Should I have left this talking rat inside? Yanking my arm from Roswell, I made to run before I froze upon hearing Sal ask another question. Has anyone seen Orlando yet? I stared down Thanatos and all I got was that smug grin that he wore. Arms thrown up in a shrug.
Whoops.
Tyson! Orlando! Where are you? Deep down I knew running into the forest was a bad idea, but the alternative was worse. Tyson couldn't be dead. Orlando couldn't be dead. It was just a cruel prank by Thanatos. I kept repeating the sentiment over and over as I rushed through the trees. They couldn't have gotten far, and I could still see the light from the house. The shadows cast by my friends about searching for themselves for me, or either of the two, at least based on the names being called. I picked up the scent of blood immediately. It was strong, either close or a lot of it if I didn't know. But it rooted me to the spot. Smelling blood was never a good sign, and in the dark I waited and listened. Huddling close to a tree, I looked around, hoping to see something. Anything that could explain what I was smelling, but I heard it first. Another loud howl, but with my nose honed into the smell of blood. All my senses were on fire. I knew where that howl was coming from, but I trembled, knowing all too well that's where the smell of blood was the strongest.
Dave, where are you?
Come back. Can you hear us? Dave. I could hear them, but I couldn't reply. There was a lump in my throat from what I'd seen. I was standing there, stunned in a clearing. What remained of Orlando strewn about messily, to the extent of being unbelievable. But there, standing wild opposite me.
A body has been discovered!
Tyson? His head snapped up to look at me the moment I spoke his name, eyes wild. He didn't move and neither did I, but the smell of blood was suffocating and took all I had to not throw up then and there. He took a step forward, eyes seemingly focused on me gradually, eyes dipping to Orlando's body next to me briefly before turning back to me. The growl made me flinch, but he shook his head quickly, trying to shake whatever was ailing him off. Ty? What have you done? Dave. Right between the eyes. It happened in slow motion, my first standing on end the moment I'd heard the gunshot. Tyson's eyes rolling back, the force of the bullet toppling him over, then him collapsing on his back on the ground. I shrieked when Benson touched my shoulder and started to hyperventilate. Orlando was dead. Tyson was now dead too. A step forward and my foot was covered in blood. It was enough to make me fall to my knees and start to puke. Benson said nothing, tucking his gun away as I continued to dry heave from what I'd just experienced in front of me.
A body has been discovered!
Can you stand? There was no answer I could give him. Not from how my body and mind were reacting. Crawled over blood and vomit towards Tyson's lifeless body, placing a hand on his chest. Hey. Nothing. He was gone. Ty, wake up. Orlando's missing. Dave. I ignored him. Come on. I need your help. Wake up. I took his hand and pressed it against my face, closing my eyes tight, hoping this was just a nightmare. I'd wake up in my bed at home. Tyson would scold me for sleeping in when I got downstairs. I started to sob, not wanting to turn around either. If I didn't see Orlando's body on the ground, I could just imagine that it was something else. That he was safe, and he'd bake me a delicious treat before saying I was being a silly for worrying so much. The dam broke when I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I wailed unrestrained into the night. The next thing I knew, I was being guided back inside. Oh. Looking down at my hands, they were shaking, covered in blood and whatever else. My eyes found Thanatos standing in the middle of the floor, just before the stairs. Why? He shook his head, looking over to Benson.
What happened out there?
I turned my head slowly to Benson. I could hear the hollow tone in my voice just from my first intake for air. Benson killed Tyson. The statement was unopposed, and I could see Benson shifting uncomfortably on the spot. Benson killed my brother.
This timeline.
He wouldn't have hurt me, but you shot him anyway. Murderer. The words seemed to shake Benson somewhat, and he slowly made his way towards the basement.
I warned you this would happen.
You did.
Them's the breaks, kid.
Yeah. The rest of the group was behind me, in just as much shock as I was from what I could tell, but here I was starting to laugh. Yeah. Them's the breaks, huh? The laughing continued, growing louder, wilder until my throat started to go sore. Then from there until it devolved into uncontrollable sadness and I crumpled to the ground in tears once more.
This isn't fair. This wasn't meant to be this way.
What do you mean?
It was meant to be me. I was meant to die first. This is just cruel.
Through my tears, I could see Sal hugging Haas, both of them crying in their own way. Dean and Roswell still seemed to be in shock, but were able to talk coherently.
Made worse by Tyson also dying.
Murdered. He was murdered.
Right. Murdered. I could hear the yelling from in here. Who knows who you attracted to the house with it?
I don't care.
You should.
Well, I don't, okay?
Go take a bath.
Thanatos scurried off, and it was Dean who helped me up. Let's get you cleaned off. I don't want to be cleaned off. I want Orlando. I want Ty.
Dave.
I went semi-limp in Dean's grip, but as he tightened, I stood upright a little more. Come on. Taking me by the shoulder, he pushed me forward, leading me upstairs. They're dead. He shucked my pants from me, leaving me in my underwear. I could feel his hand shaking as it rested against my back, all the way until he pulled away once I was in front of the bathroom door. Didn't even bother disrobing further, just turning on the water and stepping in without registering I was meant to do anything else. Even as the water drowned out a lot of the noise, I could make out Dean making sounds in the room. Grieving, maybe hyperventilating, it was hard to say. When I stepped out, I wasn't as dirty, although fur still stained with blood. Dean held out a towel, and when I didn't take it, wrapped it around my shoulders. What do you need right now? Between spice and company? I shied away from the question. If I acknowledged what had happened, that'd make it real. Oh, well, I'll be back then. I need to. My hands. He showed me that they were as stained as mine after a wash, and I shut my eyes tight. A few steps were taken back, then a sigh, and then he left the room. The door ajar, I could hear Haas yelling downstairs at Sal. I could hear Roswell trying to speak up but getting cut off. Someone coming upstairs, and then silence as his footsteps came to stop in my bedroom.
You're going to be okay.
Whining was the only thing I was capable of, and another towel was soon added to my shoulders. When I opened my eyes, he was sitting on the floor opposite me, legs crossed.
But you need to put something on or you're going to catch a cold.
How can you be worried about that right now? After what?
It hasn't hit me just yet. After all, we had only Benson telling us what had happened out there.
Nothing happened out there. My jaw was clenched and I went for the towels to hug them to me tighter. Just leave me alone.
I can't do that.
Why?
Because of what I remember of last time, you just,
I shot him a sour look, but it lasted all of a second before my eyes found the floor again. My face scrunched up and the tears starting to fall all over again. I'd never see Orlando again. I'd never see Tyson again. Right after we'd agreed to find a way to make it work, too. Orlando was just gone. Almost as if there was for some sick joke. Roswell.
I'm here.
I don't want to be here anymore.
We'll find a way out, I promise.
No, I don't want to be here at all. Alive. I give up.
What? You can't mean that.
Dad is dead. Tyson is dead. Orlando is dead. We're all going to die, and I'm just going to have to watch, aren't I? My mind went back to the vault, to Thanatos, and everything I'd seen. I'd seen everything else, but not this. It was worse witnessing it in person, but who else am I going to see die next, in the vault or right in front of me? I just... The tears were still falling and that nausea was returning. Not that I had anything left to bring up.
Wait here.
He got up quickly and shuffled away, not that I bothered watching him leave. I half-heartedly started to dry off. I hear footsteps again as I sat there in my thoughts.
He's looking pretty miserable. Can you help him at all?
Why did you bring Thanatos? I don't want to see him right now.
You... what?
His gaze went to the ceiling and he shook his head.
I warned you about this long before tonight.
This was your fault. You could have just told me the password.
And I told you that's not how this works. What was the password? It's too late to use it now anyway, right? Ask Junior what he saw and that should clear things up.
Tyson, he was standing there with the moon, Orlando's body, blood. He looked wild, feral, but still my brother.
A feral wild wolf under the full moon, but that's...
Not like Tyson, he would never kill Orlando.
Blood speaks for itself. And I hate to ask, but Tyson wasn't, you know.
When no response came, Roswell audibly gulped and whispered a clarification.
A werewolf?
We both looked at Thanatos, who seemed to chuckle at the idea, but all I could think about was just how much that word stuck out. Orlando would have been terrified in his final moments, assuming he wasn't caught off guard, all things considered. No, he was my brother, is my brother. I found myself scowling at Thanatos, who still seemed proud of himself. Didn't even make a move when I grabbed him and gripped tight. This is your fault! Give them back to me!
No, because I'm not a time machine.
The scowl turned into a snarl, grip getting tighter, though he didn't seem to register anything wrong.
What's he going to do, Dave? I don't think taking it out on him is going to help.
It might make me feel better!
Yeah, sure it will.
He started to shake him violently, then gripped his head tight.
Oi!
I started to twist, but Thanatos seemed to object.
Fine! We'll play rough!
I dropped in the moment something high-pitched hit my ears. It hurt, and I found myself rearing back to scream in pain. It never came, though, my voice catching in my throat as I heard something fall to the ground, and then me falling to the side. My head was swimming. It was a dull pain that seemed to throb incessantly, but not bad enough to be inconvenient. Just annoying. Ow. I squinted as the sun shone down on me, warm and bright. You're just going to sunbake all day or get in the water? Huh? Shit, we must have been roughhousing harder than I thought. Wait, what? He gave me a funny look before calling someone over. His voice seemed so far away, garbled by something, but no one else seemed to notice. Told you not to be so rough with him. Sorry? You're just lucky Dean trusted your word that he'd be alright. Yeah, I'll get his boyfriend back to him in one piece. Boyfriend? Dave, are you sure you're okay? Why are we at the pool? Weren't you two? Dean wandered over, feet heavy and looking me over with a frown. Want me to get them to leave you alone? No, it's fine, but... Ty threw up his hands, shaking his head. We're leaving. Dean's been going on about your 1 week anniversary all morning anyway. Our... what? I was cut off suddenly when everything fading to black. Even the sound stopped and I strained my ears to try and catch the sound of anything that might clue me in as to what was going on. My heart sank when the watermill came into view. Go apologize. Dave, are you alright? Huh?
See, he's fine.
You shouldn't throw fruit around so carelessly.
Haas started it.
I looked to the side and saw an apple with a large bite taken out of it. The side of my head felt sticky. It smelled slightly sweet. I stumbled to my feet, bracing on a tree. I came closer and looked between them and the watermill, worried.
Sorry for accidentally hitting you in the head with my apple, Dave.
It's fine, but the watermill... Kinda spooky, huh? You were saying there's a bunch of machinery down there? What? When? Hiya. Oh, hiya, Zordy.
Maybe I hit you harder than I thought.
Were you expecting a second Isaac Newton? Guys, listen, we need to get away from here. There are bad people in the mill. Tyson and Orlando are probably in trouble, and... The funny looks they were giving me made me stop before they looked at each other in confusion. Don't know what's going on with Orlando, but he's a bit far to really know for sure, right?
And Tyson's probably got his hands full helping with Dean's sprained ankle, but you seemed happy when he pulled the short straw earlier.
You said before when you went running in there that the place was abandoned. No one around for miles. But that doesn't... I didn't understand. This was wrong. Something was going wrong with my head. It had to be. Dark could hear that familiar laugh, the low humming sounds of machinery, the color green, and then... I was whipped across the face with Thanatos' tail and yelped, but he seemed convinced I was awake now. What's that for?
Morning to you too, sunshine.
Sitting up, I found I was in bed. Something that didn't line up to what I remembered to be the case, but I was quiet this time, giving the rat sitting on my bed a look.
You getting up or what?
Why?
Oh, let me think about that for a second. Things went to hell last night, or do you not remember?
My eyes were sunken and I didn't know what to believe. Part of me refused to believe certain things and my dreams weren't helping.
You're out of it more than normal.
I grunted and looked down at my hand. The unmistakable traces of blood that I hadn't been able to scrub away that I hadn't been able to scrub clean were as plain to see, and my eyes widened in fear that the reality I found myself in was the one I wanted the least. How did I get into my bed?
Dean came back and found you two passed out on the floor, put you in bed, and then took Roswell somewhere.
Oh. My eyes were still in my hand and it began to shake. It was real. Tyson and Orlando were dead. No, they can't be.
What? You going to go see for yourself?
Where are the others?
Downstairs.
Okay. I got dressed and made my way downstairs, staring at the discoloration on my hand all the while. So much as I refused to believe the truth, the scent of Orlando lingered on my hand from his blood. Where?
Dining room.
He was already wandering off somewhere else, but I didn't care. I was already walking the moment he'd finished speaking. As I walked in, the room was silent. The others were there and seemed mixed between rattled and in shock. Dean seemed to be asleep, his eyes not closed all the way and an axe by his side. For what it was worth, it still looked clean. He didn't even acknowledge when I'd sat down, each of them distracted by one thing or another. Roswell seemed to have found a fire extinguisher and kept checking that it was still there, rattled every time his eyes were off it. Haas just seemed demoralized. His eyes were puffy and red, his fur seemed to stick at odd angles on his face from where he'd been crying. Seemed as though the faintest sound would set him off again. Sal just looked tired, eyes boring through the table as if it wasn't there, looking someplace far away to where things might be nicer. I breathed in, preparing myself to say something, and for a moment I had everyone's attention. When I sighed and slumped in my chair, everyone went back to how they were. We all sat like that for a while before I heard the shuffling of footsteps approaching. Hoping for a miracle, I looked up, hoping that things weren't as bad as they seemed. But it was just Benson, and my memories of what happened made me stand and stare him down. He looked at me briefly, then hanged his head in shame, saying nothing. At least at first, and I watched as he sat down in the vacant chair closest to the door. It is now just those of us at the table remaining. He was stiff, seemingly not wanting to look me in the eye. I have retrieved Orlando and Tyson and— No! I stood up suddenly, slamming the table. You don't get to say his name. Not after what you did. He turned to look at me, eyes widening slightly and holding eye contact. Murderer! Please, I was only trying— Shut up! Orlando's gone and you killed the only person that could have explained what happened. It might not have even been him, but you killed him anyway. I was breathing heavily and stomped over to Benson, grabbing him by the collar of his shirt as he stayed sitting. Was it not good enough that you got Oswin killed that you had to go and make my life shitty by killing Ty? My grip on him tightened. You were meant to keep us safe. What good even are you? Dave, enough. No! He killed Tyson! I looked past Haas to Roswell, who was nodding slowly.
Yes, I agree with Dave.
He'd moved to cradle the extinguisher as if it was his lifeline. Leave Benson alone. There's got to be an explanation. Tell that to Tyson. I turned on Haas now, fists clenched. Only one left now that has any idea what could have happened is a talking rat. At least that's something, right?
Thanatos won't help us. He's got his own agenda.
We've got to try. What's going to happen to us now? Might I? No. I don't trust you. And Haas placed his hand on my shoulder and I found myself calming down from what I was about to say, guilt tainting my resolve. You want him dead.
You want him dead?
I jolted as Roswell spoke, barely above a whisper, but I heard him in the relative silence of the room.
Makes sense to me, that's all.
I watched as slowly Benson turned to Roswell and then back to me.
He killed someone you loved without giving them a chance, in front of you no less. It must feel awful.
Roswell, cut it out. He doesn't need this right now. Haas had me by the shoulders and sat me down away from Benson, shaking. We need to find that rat and get more answers out of him. Just a name isn't going to cut it. But that's all he gave us last night when Dave went running off.
Don't bother, I'm here.
I thought you left.
Now when everyone else is here, figured I'd stick around.
He climbed up the table to stand atop it, looking around.
Y'all look terrible.
Are you going to help us now?
What do you expect me to do?
I slumped, looking at the table much in the same way the others seemed to have their heads hung. Nothing. Nothing at all.
That's better. Only thing left is take stock of what's going to happen next.
Oh, the rat is back.
Yeah, rise and shine.
Dean looked around the table and rubbed his eyes, picking the axe back up. Everyone's here too.
Yeah, good job.
Why do you have an axe? Man up all night keeping watch. Putting you to bed, figure it'd help. It'd help having someone looking out.
Even after I said he wasn't going to get any visitors during the night, no less. What happens next? Going to need a little more than that. What happens over the coming days now that some of us are dead? Just a moment.
Thanatos seemed to stare off into space, eyes flickering before turning back to Roswell.
Nothing good. Nothing specific?
Hold on, why are you being helpful right now? Where was this when Orlando's life was on the line?
Back then the experiment wasn't about to fail.
That's all you care about right now? Some experiment?
Can't experiment if all subjects have died.
So, no specifics? We'll get to how you know after.
We're going to have a visitor soon, a wild variable I can't calculate given how many branches happen off that one interaction.
Who's the visitor? Is it help?
Is it the rabbit?
I felt a chill run down my spine at the mention of Jack, and I stared at Thanatos as he turned to face me.
No, it's not Jack. It's someone else. Someone highly variable.
Is that good or bad?
What part of variable do you not get? I could spend the whole day explaining away every interaction and encounter would go, and that alone would change what to expect.
Does anyone die?
Again, variable. At the rate we're going, yeah, at least one.
And there's nothing we can do? How certain are you? He's the Vault. He's seen this before. What? Roswell drummed lightly on his extinguisher, nodding slowly.
Robotic, can talk, lingering around Dave. Junior has a right. I've seen this all before. More times you can count.
So it's real then, that you can say the future?
The past. He can see the past, just like...
He hugged his extinguisher, looking over to me worried. A lot of good it did me this time. I got up and started to walk away, glowering at Benson as I went past.
Where are you going?
I don't know. I'll come too. We don't know what's going to happen next. I just want to be alone. I didn't bother waiting, just shoving my hands in my pockets and kept walking. I'd taken the same turn Thanatos had told me only a couple of days ago and ended up at the middle of the maze, surrounded by green walls. It was quiet here. I feel the heavy beating of my heart in my chest. I feel the dull ache left there after the night before. When I collapsed on the bench sitting there, I cried, hugging my chest and quietly sobbing as I just let the tears flow. I was scared, tired, upset, betrayed, and any number of other feelings all seemingly hitting me at once. But most importantly, 2 of my friends were gone. One of them was even meant to be my boyfriend. Something that seemed so magical to end right as it was beginning was just cruel. I remembered how Ty used to tug at his fur when stressed, and I was already doing the same, murmuring under my breath for him to come back. Just as well as I hadn't eaten otherwise, I probably would have puked again from nausea. Roswell quietly came and sat next to me, his fire extinguisher notably not with him. What are you doing?
Nothing.
The crack in his voice set him off, and soon he was sobbing too. Less quiet than I was, but nowhere near loud enough to potentially clue the others where we were.
This shouldn't be happening. It was a vacation. And now you're...
I turned to look at him, wiping my nose as he struggled to get the words out.
I'm...
You should stop talking.
What?
You're only going to make it worse. It's better just... I don't know.
But I can't just leave this bottled up. What are we going to do?
I went to say something and then found the words catching in my throat, instead coming out as a strange grimace.
The road is no good. 3 people are dead, plus the rabbit and whoever else in the woods. We can't even call for help.
So we die?
Well, I know that I don't have much longer left.
I looked at him carefully, eyes narrowed in suspicion. I was going to tell everyone tomorrow. I was going to tell everyone so there wasn't any surprises, but... What did you do? I was accusing him of something based on my tone, but I didn't know what. But he he didn't seem to pick up on it regardless. Dave, I'm dying!
This vacation, this whole thing was meant to be a big final farewell, a nice thing to remember before I...
He left it there, and my frown softened as I realized he wasn't joking. You're serious? Nodding slowly, he wiped his face, but the tears seemed to keep coming. I don't believe you.
I'm sorry, Dave, but it's happening.
This has to be some cruel joke. You mean to tell me you're just going to keel over and die in a week and that it's just meant to be okay? I stood up, raising my voice. Where's this even coming from? You're fine. You were sick earlier, but that's because you went out into the woods. You're not dying. He stood now, playing with his hands.
I'm sorry.
His eyes dropped away from mine, but stayed that way.
I didn't mean to. I needed to tell you, just not like this.
Maybe I was channeling Tyson, or maybe it was because I was so scared and angry that I lashed out. I grabbed him by the shirt and forced him to look at me, if only for a second. Shut up! I don't want to hear it! I was fighting between growling and breaking down again. Maybe not cry, given I assumed that I had little tears left to shed right now. Just don't. When he put a hand on mine, I trembled. When his other found my chest, I broke, collapsing back onto the bench as I let him go.
It might be more, it might be less, but...
A week?
Yeah.
I looked upwards. The sky seemed too happy for what was going on. Sunny and bright, whereas I just wanted to find a corner to crawl into and be alone in the dark.
Is there anything I can say or do?
For a brief moment, I considered it. For the briefest moment, I considered asking to be with Dad and Ty. It hurt my chest to think about. Could even see Orlando there too, I bet. My voice went hollow again, and I slumped, staring. What's going to happen to us?
I don't know.
Can we leave?
Do you think that's safe?
Part of me doesn't care anymore. What else have I got to lose?
It
was heartless for me to say, but I wasn't in the right headspace to filter myself. Why did you come out here anyway? How did you know where to find me?
Thanatos.
Figures.
I don't think he was worried about you, not like I was anyway.
He's a machine. How could he be? Said it himself that he can't feel emotions.
You don't think so?
I know so. If he did, he'd at least know sympathy, right? They'd have done something to stop Orlando dying, that he'd have saved Tyson from whatever happened, that he just... I don't know.
I think he might feel emotions, right?
Based on what?
Just talking. All emotions are just instincts based on knowledge and memories. They're all simulated anyway.
My love for my friends isn't simulated. This pain I feel for never being able to see Orlando smile again or be annoyed by Ty isn't simulated.
That's not what I meant.
Well, even if he could feel emotions, it's not like he wants to help me anyway. I'm done helping him with whatever this experiment is now. Roswell wanted to say something but stopped. Something more but stopped, shaking his head. He remained quiet, playing with his hands. What?
Nothing. I don't think I can argue that point.
I grunted and Roswell got up, hugging himself briefly.
Yeah.
I'm going to head back inside.
Okay. He seemed to expect more than that, but when he wasn't getting it, he just turned on heel and left. I lay down on the bench and closed my eyes. Yet with a familiar kind of tiredness, I breathed out and just let my body turn off, at least so I could rest somewhat. But as my vision went from black to something more familiar, I knew I wasn't going to be resting. I could hold it off as best as I could, laying there on my bed at home, not looking towards the door of my bedroom because the moment I did, I knew I'd see someone standing there. Look at me, son! No, look at me, son. The tone was the one he used when I was upset, or mostly just disappointed. In the corner of my vision, I saw him sit down, but I didn't look at him. Dave, come on, sport. I turned to look at him, and I thought I'd cry again, but nothing came. There you are, you had me worried. You're not here. Dave, Tyson is dead. Ah, well, you're dead too. What did you want me to say, son? I want you to leave me alone. I can't do this anymore. You're giving up? Yeah, I'm giving up. That's not the boy I raised. Buck up, we can fix this. How? No response came. How could it? This was just me dreaming, and there wasn't a way that this dream version of my dad would know something I didn't. See? There's no fixing this. I'm sorry, Dave. Just... if I die, will you be there for me? You'll come grab me, right? You're not dying. I'm just saying what if. I'll try. You'll take me to find Tyson? You never know, maybe he'll come get you and take you to me. Maybe. Can I get you anything? No, I don't want anything you can get me. Did you want to be left alone? Yes, please. As I looked away, I lost sight of him. I glanced back and he was gone, as if he was never there to begin with. I found myself laying on grass suddenly, beside a familiar grave marker. Here lies David Halloway. I'd fallen asleep here more than once, but I knew the person that normally collected me from here wasn't coming. Who knows where he'd even be buried now, or what to do once we got home. I sat up and stared at the familiar grave, then down at the soil in front of it, where I knew somewhere deep down my dad was put to rest. Looking over to the side, I saw someone standing there, green and familiar, but the details were blurry. As if from a dream or someplace far away, I found myself getting up and wandering closer. My feet felt heavy, but as I got closer, the person standing before a different familiar grave turned to face me.
It's good to see you.
Who are you?
You don't remember?
No.
How interesting.
I'm sorry, have we met before?
You could say that, although you were quite young.
No, I mean,
You think we've met somewhere else before?
haven't we?
We may have. But you're just dreaming now, dear. I don't think there's really much sense in worrying too much. I could just be a stranger for all you know.
Huh, right, but what about this? Turned to the grave marker she was standing in front of, but found the name was illegible and scratched out.
You know who's buried here?
It's just familiar for some reason. I don't know how or why, but...
And you're positive?
I stared at the grave, it shifted in focus, getting clearer before fading away again. Couldn't get a purchase on what the name on it was as much as I was tired.
You're not going to hurt yourself, Dave.
Then everything went dark. I went cold next. Opening my eyes, suddenly I was pressed up against a wall, looking over a much of machinery. I knew where I was and I didn't want to be there. I stood still, listening out for anything that might hint at someone being around, but that distinct laugh made my blood go cold.
Hi, Dave!
No, you're not real. You're not here.
Now that's just mean. You don't know anything about me. I could be real.
Oh, wait, what?
You're going to hurt yourself, Dave.
I said that wrong. I'm so sorry. You're not.
How sure are you of that? Would have been nice and easy to explain if you'd seen me kill your friends. Would have been real easy to point at me and then know who to be angry at, huh?
You.
On the plus side, at least Benson can't be trusted now.
He can't be trusted?
Right, killing Tyson in front of you like that, your brother would never hurt you, would he?
Not like that, no. He wouldn't.
See? Maybe she killed Tyson. Maybe she killed Benson before he does something bad to someone else you care about.
Hang on. No, it doesn't look like it's on my side. Is the stream dead? Did the stream die? Hang on, let me check. Oh, because you on is... Oh, okay. 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 Okay, I didn't know if it died or not. I couldn't, could I?
Why not? It's easy.
I looked down and found a gun in my hand. Heavy, and my hand shook as I tried to raise it.
Or maybe a knife. Sure, you could do wonders with one of those.
Oh no, he's hot!
It became a knife, easier to hold, but all I did was look at it.
There you go. Nice and easy like.
Jack made a few stabbing motions, and I found myself vaguely doing the same thing. That would not make you feel better. Dad? I raised you better than that. The knife in my hand became my flashlight, although turning it on seemed to do little.
Don't listen to him. He's dead. Me, on the other hand, am very much alive.
You're also just a dream.
That makes two of us, you know. Your words have just as much weight as mine.
Please, stop. No more. Dave, listen to me. I need you to do something for me. What?
Wake up.
I sat up suddenly and shivered. It was cold and things were dark. I had no idea how long I'd been asleep, but it seemed late. Good morning! Dean was sitting on the edge of the fountains, axe sitting beside him. He looked as tired as I remembered from earlier in the day and eyed him warily. What happened? I'd only just gotten here. Seems like you've been asleep. All day? Dean shrugged. I'm just happy you're accounted for now. I'm fine. Maybe. You'd spent all day out here, though. No, I didn't. Roswell told us you were out here. Unless you left and came back, I can only assume you've been out here this whole time. I grumbled, shifting how I was on the bench. Dean picked up the axe and lazily held it as he wandered over, offering me his other hand to help me up. Come on, let's get you inside. When I didn't take his hand immediately, he put a hand on my shoulder and recoiled. You're cold! I'll be okay. Not offering this time, instead taking my hand, he pulled me up. Can't have you catching a cold. The walk back inside was quiet, and the moment I crossed the threshold, I breathed out at the warm house. I hadn't realized just how cold it had been outside. Made worse by the fact I hadn't worn many layers. I could feel Dean watching me carefully as I wandered further into the foyer and looked around with a frown. I hate this house. You're not alone there. What time is it? Were you hungry? No. No one else was either. Dinner was basically skipped. I think I just want to wander the house a bit. Are you sure that's a good idea? What's the alternative? Go to bed? Suppose you have slept more than anyone else has today. I just want to think, that's all. I'll be right here then. If you get into trouble, just let me know. I wasn't hungry, but I wandered into the kitchen. There was a place here that I associated the most with Orlando. Probably because he spent so much of his time in here. Running my hand along the countertop, I spotted the remnants of dinner where the dishes hadn't been fully done. I weighed up if it was worth doing the dishes or not. After all, who else was going to? As I reached for one of the sponges, I sighed. Fingers closing prematurely around the empty air. I couldn't do it. Just being in here was uncomfortable without him being here. I could almost see him happily toiling away baking something out of the corner of my eye, but the moment I turned, nothing. I can't be here right now. I emerged out of the foyer, stumbling and keeping my hand against the wall for support. Dean looked up but said nothing. I could feel him watch me as I continued on my way down to the basement. It was just as quiet down here as it was upstairs. Granted, it was significantly less used than the kitchen. I almost couldn't smell Tyson lingering in the room, but he'd been here. My brother was once in this room, and shy of his body in the freezer upstairs, this is one of the few things I had left. A whine escaped my throat upon thinking about going near either of their bedrooms. Their scent, their belongings, constant reminders of them that I couldn't escape were I to go upstairs. I'm gonna take a bit. And hydrate. Hydration. In a daze, I left, slumping against the wall of the basement. I turned my head towards the other visible door down here, left open and a pale glow coming from within. Thanatos. Pushing myself off the wall, I wandered towards the vault. Maybe I was still dreaming, maybe this was all some vision Thanatos was showing me and it wasn't too late. Wandering inside and over to the keypad, I stared at it. It was active, waiting for input. My hands shook and I tried putting in something only for it to cut out before I could hit confirm. I collapsed against the door, defeated. I hadn't eaten all day, my mouth was dry, I was exhausted from all the crying, and as if answering my prayers, someone showed up. You.
What are you doing?
I'm done. I give up.
There's no password for today. Not of this branch anyway.
That's not going to bring Tyson back, or Orlando, or my dad, or Oswin, or anyone else that's going to die.
Bit defeatist, but true.
Is there nothing that can be done? You can't, help?
Unless you want unconsciousness, nothing I can do.
I laughed, too tired to cry, too drained to shed tears, and I flashed him the weakest smile I could manage. Sure.
You're not going to like this, but alright.
He wandered a few steps closer to be standing in the middle of the room.
Sweet dreams.
A stabbing pain hit me hard and fast, starting at my head and traveling down my spine. Before it could hit my shoulders, I was already unconscious. It was just like the night before, Thanatos knocking me out with something, and I realized what he'd meant with the last thing he said. I was going to be unconscious, but I wasn't going to be happy. Wait, it says it's Path G. How many paths are there? How many paths are there? Fuck. We are going to be on this game for a while. Fuck. And it's all confusing. Fuck. I feel myself swimming in my head. My arms felt like lead. Whatever Thanatos had done to me was still working its way through my body. I could feel it in my hands and fingers, my feet and my toes, even to the tip of my tail. As I opened my eyes, I couldn't place where I was or why I was there. All I knew was that my body was sore and there was a vague recollection of something being wrong. Oh, okay. My throat felt like it was on fire, my body tingling with a numb memory of pain. An IV was connected to my arm, various other parts of me bandaged up. It hurt to talk, but the sound it made alerted the only other person in the room. He seemed to have been dozing off in the chair next to the bed. Huh? Oh! Oh! Thank God you're awake! I was able to get more out, but all it did was make me want to cough. Not that I did, as the pain that came from my throat made my word turn into a garbled shriek of pain. Easy now, buddy. You're alright. Let me go get the doctor. He leaned over and kissed me on the forehead before rushing out. Could have sworn I saw tears in his eyes, along with almost slipping as he took the turn out of the room a little too fast. My fingers felt heavy, but I tried to flex them all the same. I couldn't place where I was or what was happening. Was I still asleep? There was some vague recollection that something had happened. We didn't do Path C. We only did Path D. But looking around, the room told me nothing. As I began to piece together what was going on, something occurred to me. I was looking through these eyes, but my thoughts felt disjointed, as if I wasn't in complete control over what I was doing. When Dad came back in, I knew I must have been dreaming. Oswin was there, alive. Without a word, he wandered over and began touching the examining parts of me that were exposed above the bed, checking the clipboard attached and nodding slowly. Oh, okay. It's good, alright, that he's awake? Master Holloway, your son is alive, and while needing time to recover, I would say that it's a good thing. I turned to look at Oswin, opening my mouth to speak. What's the matter, Dave? Looking to Dad, he didn't seem to notice anything amiss. Why would he? Because he too was meant to be dead. I'd avoid talking if I could. You need to rest. Hey, Doc, when can we take him home? Now that he's conscious, I dare say a few days, pending nothing comes back abnormal. Though he'll need bed rest and possibly a carer for the near future. I'm his dad. What do you think I'm going to be doing for my son? Oswin grunted, seemingly having nothing to say on the matter. Did Carol say anything? Dr. Holloway did not. Shall I go fetch her? Heard Dad growling. He seemed tense and his fists were balled up, though his voice was a lot calmer than how he looked. No, thank you. Dad? Yes, son? I mouthed words at him, trying anything to indicate I wanted to talk, given I could barely move my arm. Hey, can we get a notepad or something for him to write on? He can barely move his hand. I don't think they're going to be of much use, but I'll source something. As Oswin left, Dad came back over and cupped my cheek. I could feel it. I could feel him rub his thumb across my cheek, wiping away the tear that was already on its way down my cheek. You're safe now. What? You're safe now, Dave. It's alright. We will take you home soon, and that might make you comfortable, I shook my head. No? What's wrong? Oh, right. Do you remember what happened? I found myself shaking my head again without realizing it. I just fallen asleep, didn't I? If he was about to start telling me about what happened at the mansion, I already knew about it. Oh dear. Spare clipboard, paper, and marker. Enjoy. As he turned to leave, Dad put a hand on his shoulder. He doesn't remember what happened. That's normal. So he'll remember eventually? Oswald looked at me hard before turning back to Dad, looking him over. If what I've been told is correct, it might be best if he doesn't. I'm not going to accept that. Then tell him yourself. After all, you're still acting police, aren't you? The comment didn't seem to sit well with Dad, but he stayed quiet, instead turning to me. I'm sure the police want to question him if you don't, so by all means, do as you will, as long as it doesn't compromise the health of my patient. I'd rather not have Carol berate me again. Then he was gone again, leaving me with Dad. He slumped back into his chair beside my head, watching me for a bit. Could see he wanted to say something, but was keeping it down. Probably where I'd learned it from. Are you okay? Yeah. Nodding again, he ran his hands through his fur. I was just enjoying watching him, wondering still where this dream was taking me before I felt another word coming up out of my throat. Ty. There it was. Of course my brain was going to bring him up of all people. Started to squirm under my own skin despite being motionless in the hospital bed. Do you really not remember anything? I wanted to say no and dismiss it all as just a dream, but my mouth had other ideas, more hurried of pained repeating of the same name. Dave. Where's Tyson? Tyson, he's... Already I was crying, but I was confused as to what this meant. Tyson was dead, shot dead by Benson, but something in me deep down almost seemed to not know. Dad took my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. I yelped a little in pain, and he backed off, only to gently place his hand atop mine instead. He didn't make it. Everything went to black suddenly. I felt like I was swimming again, dropping down somewhere new a few seconds later. Frowning, I focused in on the grave I was standing in front of. Tyson Holloway. Dad stood from kneeling next to the grave and looked to me. I felt hollow, or maybe numb. Almost like a blanket was covering me, but instead of asking what was going on like I wanted to, I just silently stared. You doing okay? Again, it just stood perfectly still, and Dad seemed to nod in understanding. Figured you might want to be your brother. You might want to visit your brother. Been a bit hard with it just being the two of us, huh? What did he mean? Dad wasn't fond of wearing his wedding ring normally because he kept leaving it places. Mom didn't wear hers a lot because of work, so seeing them without it was normal. But saying it just the two of us felt off. Dad? His eyes lit up as I spoke, as if hanging on my every word. What is it, son? Without thinking, I tried to ask him what was going on and what he meant. But the me that I seemed to be standing there had other ideas. Is it my fault? Oh, Dave. Again, I was crying. I could feel the tears falling down my cheeks as I collapsed to my knees and clawed at the soil around Tyson's grave. But if maybe... I could feel Dad's hand on my back, just rubbing slowly in circles as I worked out what tears I had in my system. It's not your fault. It wasn't his either. Then who? Dad didn't have an answer. I just wanted to know what scenario my mind had made up. I don't know. He pulled me into a hug and rested his head atop of mine as I continued to cry, clutching to his shirt. I just really don't know. He took me home and I was sobbing for the first half of the trip in the car, exhausted by the time we got home. Once the car was parked, I just sat there until Dad came around and helped me out of the car. Then inside, where he eased me down onto the sofa. Watching as he wandered into the kitchen, I could hear the coffee machine going. Various things around the room seemed missing, notably Mom's things. Photos of the family were missing too, just things of Dad, me, or just the two of us. Pulling out my phone, I looked through my contact. Tapping on Tyson's, I started calling it. Holding it to my ear, I could feel myself hoping he'd pick up, but it went to voicemail. Hey, not here. Leave a message. Then the beep. I expected more crying, but instead we scrolled to the next contact and hit dial.
Sorry, I can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message.
The beep again. You have reached Sal's phone, but I'm not here. Sorry. Hey, one of the rare times you must have missed me, so try back later maybe, or shoot me a message if it's urgent.
Hi, I can't answer the phone now. Leave me a message, though.
Hello, this is Dane. Feel free to leave a message and I'll call you back when I can. Every time there was a beep, every time I could feel it in my chest, that sinking feeling that I was doing this just to hear their voices. Calling them again? Yeah. I'm sorry. They're not coming back. Dad sat down a mug of coffee, but my stomach churned at the thought of it. Come on, kid, I've got to get something in you, even if it's just coffee. I'm not hungry. Or thirsty. Please, for me? I sat up and took the mug, cradling it in my hands. He'd made it black despite me normally having it with milk. I could see myself in the surface, eyes hollow, fur disheveled, and patchy, a few cuts scarring my face. Did you want to talk about it? Not really. Did you want me to ask anything? Did you want to ask me anything? Fuck. Everything inside me screamed yes. I was confused and felt like I was just watching something play out. Why was Oswin there? What happened to the rest of my friends? It didn't make sense. Heard the doorbell but didn't react to it. Dad did, however, getting up. Oh, howdy. Sorry to bother you, but I was just wondering, hear a conversation happening between Dad and someone at the door. Someone familiar from the tone of voice, but I couldn't place where. How is he, by the way? He's doing better. That's relief. Poor thing. How about you? Me, I'm fine. Huh, sure. Okay. Dad wandered away from the door, heading to the kitchen. He seemed a combination of stunned and confused, but went and retrieved what appeared to be 2 eggs before turning to the door. Thanks again for this, David. I'll come back later and check in. Sure, see you later, Flo. He closed the door and wandered back into the living room to sit in the space beside me. She wanted eggs. Last 2 we had as well. We'll need to get more. Yeah, I guess. Where's your mind at, buddy? I hate seeing you like this. You try having everyone you love dying in a fire. There was no fire. What was I talking about? Son, not you, Dad. I still love you. Well, that's good. Why was I... Dave, I know things haven't been the best. I barked at him, although the me that seemed to have control was a lot more aggressive in how he delivered the same words. You have no idea what it's like. He just sat there quietly, eyes darting away briefly before turning to me. I'm sorry, son. They're all... Why they all... Dad started talking, but things faded away again, leaving me in an inky black. My body was sore in a way I couldn't describe, but it wasn't long before I found myself somewhere else. I knew the place I ended up. It was a cafe that I met Dean, and the place I frequented a lot for my coffee fix when I wasn't at home. Hey, is there anything I could have done different, you think? There wasn't anyone sitting opposite me, no one outside the window beside the table, so I didn't know who I was talking to. It's been years, but... Pulled something out of my pocket, holding it in my hand. Looked like a combination of singed fur and scrap metal, but I didn't have to wait long for confirmation. Thanatos, was this really what you wanted to happen? I thought I would find you here. What do you want? He sat down, looking me over. I'm here because your father asked me to check up on you. Well, he asked your mother, but she felt that I was better suited to assisting. Go away, I don't need help. With how you're clutching the remains of Thanatos, I hardly believe that. Holding his hand out, I passed him the remains of the animatronic rat, and he looked it over. A pity, but perhaps repairable. Though the back-end system is dormant, it'd be no different than just a toy. Do whatever you want. May I ask you something? Sure, I can't stop you. Did you want help? Truthfully, I'm not about to waste my time trying to save someone intent on drowning themselves. And if you've made your decision already, I'd rather leave and be done with it. I grumbled but said nothing. My ears went back immediately and the rest of my body tensed up. Alright, then let me start by saying that I don't know what happened on that mountain. Not specifically, anyway. Again, I grumbled, but he seemed to continue as if choosing to ignore me. I have my hunches, but nothing is set in stone. Stop. I brought my hand down on the table, hard. I don't want to hear it. You weren't there, but I was. What happened was some bad people went out instead and torched the place, and I was the only one that made it out alive. He raised an eyebrow, seemingly unbothered by how I'd cut in. Why are you even practicing medicine? Who even allowed that? What twisted god allows a guy to kill a bunch of kids and let him keep treating people? The cafe was silent and I stood up. What fucked up god chooses me to live instead of any of the great people I was friends with? They chose, Dave, not a god. Don't you dare! Oswin stood up, placing what remained of Thanatos in his pocket. You can either live a life full of regret, as you have been the past few years, slowly eating away at you, or try and rebuild. He placed a hand on his chest briefly before putting that hand back in his pocket. What option did I have after losing my family to that fire? I could have succumbed to alcohol and became a man like my father, or I could have fought against that like my older brother did up until his final days. I don't care about whatever you did to rebel. You wanted to know what sort of god would allow me to continue working in medicine after what I did. I'm merely saying that while I can do very little, authorized to nearly nothing, it's what I have left. At least you have something. You have your parents. They divorced. Mom even sent you instead of seeing me herself. And your father? That apparently made me falter. I didn't know what they meant, though. He's keeping you safe as best he can. That seemed to be all I needed to see and cut it off once again from there. I half expected I was going to be thrown somewhere else, but I started to feel cold instead, something hard and solid underneath me. There was a blanket draped over me and a pillow propped under my head. Thanatos was gone too. As groggy as I was, I brought a hand up to my face and flexed my fingers. I tried making sounds with my mouth to see if I was dreaming or if I had control again. What was that dream? Why didn't I have control? Looking up at the vault's control panel, I grimaced as I started to realize that it was just a long vault vision instead. A memory. The basement was cold, even with the blanket still draped over me. The pillow was tucked under my arm, and I stumbled forward towards the stairs. How long had I been down here? What time was it? Where were the others? Who gave me the blanket? Even once I was no longer downstairs, the house was still as quiet. Not a foreboding quiet, but just as peaceful. It seemed early, but I didn't really have any way to properly tell. I patted my pocket for my phone, finding it empty. If I'd had it when I went downstairs, I didn't have it anymore. Breathing in, I went to call out to the others before finding the words catching in my throat. If I spoke, the silence would be broken, and who knows what would happen next. Instead, I headed to the front door, reaching for the doorknob. Each step was slow, measured, as if I was on autopilot. Stepping out into the sun, it would at least have to be mid-morning, if not later. It was bright, warmer than I expected, and far too happy for what happened so recently. I found myself scowling at the sky, too tired to do much else. We're going to leave off here tonight. Okay, so I can delete this. Wait, no. Okay. So, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right there. We can delete this. Fuck. Just fuck. Fuck. That's literally all I can say right now. Just fuck. Anyways, I'm going to maybe cry myself to sleep. Stay safe. Have a good night. And I will see you all tomorrow.